Hello, and thank you for joining me for this weekly practice together. My name's aLex. We'll do a little bit of movement where these are the three parts of the practice today for roughly 30 minutes. I'll talk a little bit about my theme that's escorting us into the practice, supporting us in one way. We'll do a movement that's micro, that's a tiny, subtle movements, and that segues us right into meditation time. About three parts. If you see the glass door reflection, there is a cat tree in the room that is new to us and two new cats, two orange tabbies. So you may see them. They're engaged with watching the birds out there. So we're here together in this really amazing venue that the pandemic necessitated and catalyzed through electronic media, and in particular we're in Sun and Moon Yoga Studios portal. I often feel, even though, unlike Zoom, unless I see a chat from you, I don't know you're here. But even with being in this physically separated positioning, I'm astounded how connected I feel to you who are watching in the same time or any other time that you're going to watch down the road, down the stream. So gently down the stream, I've been pondering a lot how critical it is, how critical the pause is, the pause to recognize, to really recognize the here now. And so the here now, as I say those words, HERE, NOW, they're not it. It's like the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. So what is that? What is it? And this is what we get to feel when we are in meditation, and to be able to sift out when we're sensing that moment and when we're not, and the importance of that. There's an importance to that. Why is it even important? Well, for me, you may find your own, and I encourage you, find your own, find for you why that's important. But my words, my sharing may resonate for you. Sometimes it's very, very clear when, however we're in life, is lining up with our intention, with kindness, with the essence of our being, with our dharma, our path. Sometimes it's very clear when we are on that and not. And how do we even know that? Again, a question for you, and I'll offer a few things. What I've noticed, been taught and noticed here is there's a smoothness, there's a harmony, there's often a joy, there's a balance, a sense of balance, a sense of ease, a sense of energy that's not depleted. So I invite you to, for a few moments now, just ponder when you've made a decision, you're moving in some direction, and that could be just a decision of what you've just said to someone, what you've decided to say, or a big decision. Well, that could be a big decision, but a decision of shifting something, changing jobs, going a particular place. How is it that you know that it's right? And then you can come back to that. And as you were thinking of some of those instances, you might have thought about, or something that might have come to mind is a time when, well, I wasn't so sure. I made that choice, suggested this restaurant or whatever, and it didn't resonate. It didn't resonate. And so at that point, it's really helpful for us to kind of go back to center, to stop, to pause, to have that capacity, to have that tool, to have that muscle, to be able to do that easily. And to notice what's there and be still and listen for what's there. And that can take more time than we expect. And that can be, in terms of the inquiry practice, we need to give it a little more time. So again, this is why the meditation is so helpful. Now, when we segue into being ready for action, as again, Eric Schiffman has reminded us, I've forgotten about this teaching of his, that sometimes when he'll teach, and it's movement practice, asana, he'll teach us something and then he'll ask us to do it on our own. But he starts out with, we start out the starting position, and he suggests just stay there and wait until, don't just go right into the movement, but wait until you feel sort of a readiness, a flow beginning. And this is the same, and then go ahead and do it. And this is the same, I'll say discipline, the same sort of restraint to just wait and then notice for when something shifts to arise, for that momentum to come. All right. So why Gently Down the Stream? I feel like that song that's quite ancient, the first printings of it were in the late 1800s in England, said to be a children's song, but I think the words, like many things, can have some layers of meaning. And teachers of mine have pointed this out. Row, row, row your boat. We're always doing something, even if we're sitting very, very still in meditation. We're always sitting and we're monitoring, our attention is somewhere. There's always a doing happening, even if we're not doing. If we've chosen something very, very still, there's that low, low level continuum then. And we're always becoming. That Zen phrase, always being, always becoming, are happening together all the time. So always becoming is that there's always, I'm sorry, it just went off in two things. So row, row, row your boat. We're always doing something. So that's the always becoming. Gently down the stream. I'm taking the stream to be, even though it's dynamic, so the metaphor is not perfect, as most metaphors are not, the stream to be that source, that life force that's always there. It's not of our making. It's where we originate from and where everything comes from. And for each of us, if we listen and line up with that, from the stillness, from the silence, from the spaciousness of that, those three S's, we're get more and more likely for the always becoming, for the choices. Some practitioners even say that it becomes a choiceless choice. It's just obvious. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. So I think the merrily speaks to that we know that we can both have that intent for there to be joy, and we can feel that when things are aligned, when we're aligned with our being and our becoming is aligned, there's a merriment there. Life is but a dream. I'm not really ready to talk about that. I'm not sure, but there's something juicy in there too, isn't there? There's something juicy. I'm not sure what to say about it, is what I'm saying. I have some ideas. So ponder that one on your own. Kind of fun. And yeah, there's a lot there, maybe for next week. So as you've been listening, I hope you've tended to your body. You've helped yourself receive the support that is here. And so make sure of that as you don't have to shift very much. You might be lying down, you might be on your side, like this kitty is. He's named Flame, but we're not sure if we're staying with that. So you can just be where you are or shift to another position for this micro movement practice. And so, let's use that phrase a lot today. And so, begin to notice the surfaces of your body, that are touching the surfaces below you. So perhaps, like for me, that is the carpet under my feet and the sides of my legs, the cushion under one knee. The textures are different. And the way the weight of my body sinks into each of those textiles is different. Under my sits bones is a folded blanket, a wool blanket. And the texture is different again. And as you follow how we just allow gravity to have us, and we just sink, let all of the weight that's above us, above that surface, kind of settle downward. And we're breathing. And we're looking for ease, harmony. Letting go, we can notice anywhere where we're exerting extra energy that's not needed. And it's almost as if just with this attention in this way toward ourselves, just attending, not intending to necessarily change anything, but just attending to how we can be in the flow of this stream of gravity. So we've just been still. You might have moved a little bit here and there. And just noticing and allowing. So attention is focused toward these parts, these very specific parts I mentioned. But it's also open to the sounds around us, the sensations within the body. And ever so slightly, so first listen to my guidance, and then we'll take a moment before we actually do it. So the guidance will be to almost like feeling as if the insides of you is just fluid, and from an imaginary golden ball in the lower belly, just lower than the navel, just above the pelvic floor. Imagine that golden ball, kind of a very fluid ball, and all the insides fluid, just shifting so that the weight of your body leans more heavily into the right hip. Wherever you are, even if the right hip is not touching the ground, if you happen to be laying on your left side. Just let the right hip become heavier in some way. So if you did it already, that's fine. But if you haven't, now just wait, as Eric Schiffman would have invited us to wait. And you might wait a long time before the readiness feels like it's lined up, like breath, like how do I do this? And then letting the weight shift, almost as if more warm honey is on the insides of you and it just flows a little more to the right hip. How does that, and watching how that happens, ease, and then just come back to center. So if you're watching me do this, you may not see anything at all. It's very slight, and it's just this shifting, the golden ball rolling, flowing, oozing a little bit more down to the, did I say right? Right hip, just into the right hip, sits bones. And so the body all above the right hip might shift a little bit. You can be aware of the adjacents, the contiguous relationship, just back and forth. And then when you come back to center, pause a moment. And so we were just off center. If you were at center in the beginning, I didn't really line us up that way, might not have been. And just see how and what you feel right here. And something to be aware of is that we're moving in time. We were moving in time. Things were changing, and there was some assessment being made. We're reporting in some way. You might not have even sensed yourself saying something about it or commenting, but I'm pretty sure it's there. And maybe it isn't there. Maybe words are not there yet. But that's that liminal space that's useful to be aware of, to more and more feel what that aligned place is. Okay, now let's take from center and wait. Let's wait till, you know where we're going to go. We're going to go to the left hip. So wait for it. Wait for a readiness. And what even is that? If you're not sure, just guess. Guess that when you're ready. And you will become more sure as we pay attention to when is the readiness there? Breathing. When you roll over there to the left hip a little more, shift the weight onto the left hip. Just stay there a moment, a few breaths. Sense the way you're not at center anymore. But you might almost find a new center. And then back to center, so weight is distributed more evenly, and pause again. Back at this home plate. And again, a few times slowly, just savoring. Can the movement be smooth? Even this tiny little movement. And if it's not, it's not a judgment. There's no problem with it. It's just, it would feel better. It would be more aligned if it's smooth. In the physical way, as well as the emotional way. And sometimes, for some of you, you might find this is just unbearably slow. Sometimes it helps to do it faster. Do it faster, real fast, to see if sometimes that breaks up patterning a little better. So you can change the speeds. When you're ready, go back and forth. Shift so you lean to the right hip You may have needed to find back to center, and then the left at your pace. It can go very, very slow, go faster. And while I've been saying left and right, you might have needed some forward or back rolling to make this happen in that lower pelvic bowl. Pausing anywhere you like. If you like to just stop somewhere, excuse me, that's fine. Slowly take the next few breaths to make your way back to what's center. Excuse me, what was your starting point? And just land there. And you might notice something is different here now. It might be wordless, it might have words. The moment it has words, we're stepped away from the raw experience, this moment. And that's fine. We need to have words. It's the birth. It's the source expressing. And you might find that you're perfectly positioned, poised to come right into our meditation now. And if not, if you need to shift a little bit or a lot, please do that. Get the support you need. So, the meditation practice, silence, stillness, spaciousness. We're recognizing that place that is prior to anything we can name, any action, any movement. Sometimes called the backward step. Helpful to lean into the cues I often use: ground, sound, breath, ground we explored at the very beginning. That downward pull of gravity with a accompanying equal and opposite levity upward. Feeling that with our body, finding it. We allow it to hold us. We allow greater ease, less what we have to do, and more just be held by the grid of gravity. Sound, ground sound breath. Sound opens us to all that's around us, intimately, unbrokenly connected to what's within us. Breath. And whenever you notice that you're a little more in the thinking, or maybe even as I came out of my stillness, just turned my head with a sound, just recognize you're just a little bit more in the always becoming phase of the yin yang, being, becoming. They're always present together. We're just choosing here to favor, to sort of get more and more knowing of knowing itself, of our source. Just recognizing that we can't ever have lost the being. Take another couple breaths. And linger a moment feeling that this state that we're in is a particular mind state. And really what we're tapping into is not a state at all. Being is way beyond that. but for our purposes of experience, this one is different than when we were moving and different from when we were listening to my theme talk. So all are always present, kind of learning and engaging mentally. We're moving, we're in being. They're always present, all of them. And it can be really helpful for us to have a agility of moving from one to the other. So I bring my hands together at the front of my heart and bow to you in gratitude, bow to us for this practice together, for this desire to learn to move toward more harmony, toward recognizing, listening in to ourselves, listening for the gift that is arising right here. And I invite you to, for your homework during this week, or however it calls to you, to listen for that depth, that instruction that's coming right from within. It's coming for us all, even then sometimes it doesn't feel like it's there, or sometimes the first one comes and it doesn't line up with, it doesn't quite feel right, or you don't know for sure. So I invite you to then stay. Sometimes you don't have time. Sometimes you need to act, go ahead and act. But when you do, take the pause. Just let the boat float down the stream. Stop the rowing. And listen beyond those first inclinations. And there might be a more clear yes, this way. Ciao, ciao. See you next time. And please do check out our Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, sunandmoonstudio.com website for activities and ways to connect and deepen your practice. Ciao.